in the small state of Kerala in South India. While my hometown was a veritable paradise, filled with cultural richness and natural beauty, our streets were always chaotic and tumultuous, filled with people hustling to make ends meet and propel their children to the next economic orbit. In Kerala, as a volunteer for a savings group, I discovered the tremendous impact they had on thousands of lives. Many of the working class women I grew up with were members of self-help savings groups, which are groups of 10 to 15 women who would come together every month to pool in their small savings and use that sum as collateral to get loans from banks. These were women without access to lines of credit, with almost no shot at economic success. I was fascinated with the work they did through self-help groups and savings groups. Usually within 10 years, they would rise high above their income levels while holding down 2 to 3 jobs. They would start their own businesses, and they would put almost all their kids through school. My experience volunteering with savings groups was my first glimpse into true upward economic mobility, defined as the ability of an individual to improve their economic status over time. It is often measured by movement between income quintiles, or when a person can move from the bottom 20% of the income distribution of a country to the top 20% of its income distribution. To many of us in the United States, this is what we mean when we refer to the American dream, the ability of all children to have a shot at economic success, no matter which income quintile they're born into. As members of the rising middle class in India, my family was planning our own jump to the next economic orbit. We moved from Bangalore, Karnataka to Farmington, Connecticut in 2019, traversing oceans and the world to start a new life in a new country. I moved to the US in 2019 at an unfortunate time, right before a global pandemic, and right after a very public fixation with the death of the American dream. Economists like Rod Chetty at Harvard University were studying the variation of intergenerational mobility rates in local neighborhoods across the country. And they found that in cities like Charlotte, the odds of a child in the bottom quintile reaching the top quintile of the income distribution is less than 4.4%, whereas across the country, in places like San Jose, the odds are closer to 12.9%. The birth lottery assigned to children in American society was gaining a stronger foothold every day, and my family had to work twice as hard to remind ourselves that we were still in the land of opportunity. It was equally disheartening to realize that Connecticut, the state we had just moved into, fed poorly in opportunities for growth and economic mobility. In a Stanford study, it was shown that Connecticut had the lowest levels of intergenerational mobility among all 9 northeastern states. Today, there is just a 7% chance for a child born in the bottom 20% in Connecticut society to reach the top 20% of Connecticut society. The numbers are even more disheartening by race, showing that 42% of Black Americans in the United States who are born in the bottom decile of the national income distribution remain in the bottom decile, compared to 17% of white Americans who are born in the same income level. How could we improve these numbers? What was the best way to dispel the elite social networks in low mobility states that gatekeep the types of opportunities that poor kids need to succeed? How could we ensure that children born today end up having the opportunity to make more than their parents? As an involved student on campus at the University of Connecticut, surrounded by low and middle income students with gaping knowledge gaps, I grew to strongly believe that economic and financial literacy is the first step to bridging these gaps and reviving the American dream. Data being the first step to effective advocacy, I started compiling the first survey of financial literacy at a Connecticut public school, asking 3 basic questions on fundamental financial concepts: interest rates, inflation, the difference between a stock and a mutual fund. The results were astounding. Less than 40% of undergraduates at the University of Connecticut today can answer all 3 questions correctly. This is part of a nationwide trend. Less than 28% of undergraduates across the country can answer all 3 questions correctly. This has grave consequences. Financially illiterate college graduates are partaking in more student debt, destroying their credit scores, and investing in unstable markets without understanding the most fundamental financial concepts. And this shaky knowledge base creates lower financial wellness throughout their adult lives. In fact, financial illiteracy is linked to a whole host of negative livelihood factors, like unsustainable debt burdens, poor credit, amplified wealth inequality across the nation, lack of retirement planning, and lower lifetime earnings potential. How do we raise financial literacy rates? My research shows that by stepping up public investment in financial literacy at a high school and college level, by building an interactive and collaborative financial instruction curriculum, and by sustaining evidence-based initiatives in schools, we can create a stronger generation of Americans. Americans who are equipped to participate in a rapidly changing economy. We need sustained financial education targeted towards high-need communities through early education initiatives. And a big positive step taken right here in Connecticut will be the passage of a 2024 General Assembly bill that mandates financial literacy instruction in all Connecticut public schools. Throughout my time learning about economic mobility back home in Kerala as a volunteer for a savings group, to my time studying financial literacy as an undergraduate in Connecticut today, I have realized that financial literacy is one of the great equalizers of our time. And I am optimistic that if we dedicate the right time, money, and resources to raising financial knowledge among young Americans today, we can provide the valuable starting impetus we need to revive the American dream. Thank you, and have a good day.